Right, well, we'll go ahead and get started. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining this episode of Business as Unusual, where we are speaking to badass leaders in today's economy, learning more about how they're providing innovation and inspiration at their business and what we can learn from them. I'm Lisa Baining, one of the account managers at Red Caffeine, and I'll be your moderator for today's session. We are extremely excited to have today's presenter here. As we were just talking before our webinar started today, thinking about how important social proof is today, especially since we are in this time of social distancing and not able to actively go maybe drive by a business or even speak with other people face to face as we normally would. And it's not just for our B2C decisions when we're thinking about buying a new car or home, we're also taking those type of decision making back to our offices when we're looking at B2B as well. So get ready for a great session and lots of practical advice you can take back. As a few housekeeping things, we do have everyone on mute today, so please use the chat function or the QA option to ask any questions. I'll be gathering those throughout today's session, and we'll have those at the end for our Q&A portion. Next, as we turn things over to our presenter, Kathy Steele, I wanted to give a shout out to some of our restaurants today. As part of our webinar offering, we are offering the first 5 registrants free lunch on us in an effort to support restaurants across the US. So thank you to our first 5 registrants today. I look forward to seeing what you order for lunch so we can give them a shout out on our website. But Kathy, as I send things over to you today, welcome. I hear you are eating at Shannon's Deli, which is one of our local favorites. So good afternoon. And if you'd like to introduce yourself and our speaker today, I'll continue on to the next slide.
Yeah. Thanks, Lisa. Yes, I'm eating at Shannon's today for lunch. We're still waiting for a lot of our local restaurants to reopen, but they have been doing a great job of working through some of the last few months and staying a thriving business in our small downtown area outside of Chicago. So I'm so excited to have my friend Chris Campbell on today. He is been such just a great resource for me over these last few months, as we've really shared a lot of thinking around running a business in a really turbulent time. And I appreciate his friendship and a lot of business acumen and shared experiences through the last few months. So thank you so much, Chris, for being with us. So want to tell you a little bit about Red Caffeine. We build badass brands, that people want to work for and with, and it really is about building that incredible reputation that attracts the right clients and the right employees. So I think this is such a relevant topic. And Chris, can you just tell us a little bit more about ReviewTrackers as we kind of step into today's content?
Sure. Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks so much for hopping on the webinar. Excited to hopefully share a little bit of knowledge with you and a little about what we do. And hopefully you guys have some takeaways from today's conversation that allow you to improve your business and continue growing in these difficult times. Kathy, thanks for hosting. Lisa, thanks for organizing. So my name is Chris Campbell. I'm the CEO of ReviewTrackers. We're a software platform based in Chicago, and we help businesses all over the world in 35 different countries at this point, help them track and manage online reviews. So what does that mean? It's the neighborhood restaurant, it's the coffee shops, but it's also healthcare, hospital systems, it's car dealers, it's retail shops. And basically we're trying to help brands better understand the feedback that their customers are giving them, primarily on sites like, think Google, Yelp, TripAdvisor, sites like that. We aggregate it, pull it in, and then we spit back insights to hopefully help the business improve and actionable insights into that data.
Fantastic. So, reputation management 101, I really want to start there because I think there's a lot of I think everybody is familiar with seeing reviews and how much they make an impact on purchases, like say on sites like Amazon or, selecting a restaurant. But can you tell us, a little bit more about, give us a 101 on reputation management? I think we've got some data points to share too.
Yeah, so I realize there's different levels of attendees. Some people are coming from B2B, consumer side, where maybe this is a little bit more familiar, but you can't argue with the fact that consumer behavior is changing, where more and more we're using the internet to do research before we make a purchase. I think of industries, I'll use automotive because this is like 5 years ago. Now it's the standard, but at that time it seemed a little crazy. I went to a car dealer conference, and I think this is the best way I can explain it to people that feel like it maybe hasn't adapted to their industry yet. Was at this car dealer conference, and Seth Godin was on stage, and he was talking about like, hey, this industry is changing. It's adapting very quickly. You guys are the bookstores, and you don't realize Amazon is coming. And this was 5 years ago.
Right.
So at this point, the average consumer actually went to 7 different car dealers before they made a purchase. Today, that average is 1.1 car dealers. So people already walk into the car dealership knowing the rep they want to work with, the car they want to buy on the lot, what price they're willing to pay, and have maybe the financing already figured out. And that happened in a period of literally just a few years. And it was so funny to me at the time, like I'd say like 1 in 10 car dealers were like, he's right, we got to get online, like we're going digital. And the other 90% were like, this guy's, full of BS. He doesn't know what he's talking about. He's not from our industry. And the reality is just like consumer behaviors and purchasing behavior is adapting to be more research driven, more qualified before you make a purchase. And people are just, making those decisions online. There's no more, during COVID right now, it's a good reminder that there's no trade shows. There's no walking through shopping malls to find something new. It's online. And how do you evaluate that? Online reviews dictates a lot of that. And I think that's the people, it's a reputation that takes years to build and time to build. You can't just get like 100 reviews overnight. So I think it's like a good reminder to slowly build those investments over time. It's just like any other investment you make in your business.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great point. I know you mentioned that to me recently, and I completely, didn't think about it's like a 401k. It's not something that happens overnight. Well, let's just say we don't know what our 401ks are doing right now, but it is something that takes time to build. It's a long-term strategy, not a short-term strategy, and trying to build those positive insights about your business from peers. And so can you speak to, a couple of, I love I think the automotive is a really great example because it is such a old school, group of businesses, but there's other sectors like B2B where we're seeing, especially in manufacturing, we're seeing even some of our clients who were, saying 5 years ago, our customers are not online and we don't need to have a really robust website, start to put standard products online and really think about the buying experience differently as well. So is there other business to business examples you could share that you're seeing?
Yeah, so I think there's tons of examples out there. But let me answer your question, then I'll speak to a little bit of the stats on the slide here. But if you look at G2, which is, if you guys are not familiar with it, is a business to business review site. Capterra, Software Advice, Gartner all have similar B2B review marketplaces at this point, and there's some niche ones for specific industries, etc. But in the example of G2, in just a few years, they basically went from 0 to 1 million plus reviews on their platform, and they're not just what started as B2B software, then it got into marketing agencies, then it got into other technology, then it's getting into like hardware, and point being, like, that's just B2B is usually a lag on consumer behavior, but I think the forward-looking marketers are going like, this is going to be really important to our future. And for the people that don't maintain it, I think it kind of speaks to this slide of like 94% of consumers said a negative review convinced them to avoid a business. And it's so interesting to talk to business owners and like, oh, that's an ex-employee or it's a fake review. Consumers don't know that. they take, what's written online almost as spoken word. And it's your job as a business to make sure you respond to that, and also get your other, happy customers to share their story and add to that narrative so that an informed consumer can make a decision. Because some people talk about it as they're not even picking up the phone. They've already made the decision to not even consider you as part of the process. It's so interesting to me, being B2B, we have great reviews, but people also look at things like Glassdoor. I've been in board meetings where people are considering buying our software and they're like, oh, it looks like your employees are happy. And literally them telling me hey, we chose you over this other competitor because it's a 2.5 out of 5 stars. And their employees clearly are not happy. We don't want to work with a company like that. And I just think all these things that are changing, it's another data point, and it helps validate and maybe shorten sales cycle. If you want to look at it from an economic standpoint, it'll help you probably acquire more leads and close deals faster, if you want to look at it that way, if that gives you enough of the economic driver. There's a lot of ways to do it. On this slide, we have the first party versus third party reviews. First party, you can kind of think as testimonials and trying to drive more data. There's different systems out there, or you could just literally have testimonials on your website, like the old school way of doing that. I think those are great. The other thing is using that third party, which people kind of see as additional trust and validation to do that. So that could be Google and TripAdvisor, but in business to business, it might be G2 or Capterra or Trustpilot, or maybe one of the other marketplaces that also facilitate that as well.
So how does ReviewTrackers actually work? Lisa, do we have some slides that kind of show some?
Yeah, so this is a snapshot of a little bit of the text analytics, but let's give an example of a pizza chain here in Chicago. So, or I got a better one. That's there was a theme park. Believe it or not, so we are sucking in all this different data. So in some cases, businesses are getting, in some cases small, where there's only dozens of reviews, some cases hundreds or thousands of reviews on a regular basis. And we're constantly taking this data, benchmarking it against competition in the marketplace, and trying to pull out anomalies and trends. So literally, our text analytics has pulled out weird anomalies. So for a theme park, when they changed the ketchup, believe it or not, they started getting negative reviews about the ketchup at the theme park, to the point where our system flagged it and said, hey, there's been whatever, hundreds of comments about the ketchup change. And they took that feedback and they changed back. They realized that their customer really cared about that. And it wasn't worth the 2 cents a packet savings to switch. So they switched back. Or we were working with a Chicago pizza chain, and they had a restaurant, new one that they opened up out west in the West Coast. It was the first one in that area. And they were famous for stuffing sausage, the deep dish, think Chicago style. And what they found is they kept getting all these reviews of it was something negative around the sausage. And as they were digging in, they realized the new chefs in the West Coast were not putting enough sausage on the pizza. All the people from Chicago that were going there to try it had this expectation of a tortilla of sausage across the top, and that's not what they got. So they ended up, they retrained the staff, and then they could see that that negative feedback basically disappear. So it really gives, in some cases, operational insights, things that you can help do and improve your business. And then when you match that against your competition, hopefully it drives opportunities to see where there's gaps in the marketplace that you could take advantage of as well.
Yeah, and I will validate a couple of your points. I think that, in our competitive review, we're always looking at Glassdoor reviews on our clients against their competition, because I think it does tell a unique story. I know that, we've heard in the interview process ourselves that people are not even looking at at companies that are under 4 stars. And so it's definitely giving a lot of credence to different decision-making, whether the people are looking to work with your brand or work for your brand. But I love the insights piece too. I think, at face value, we might be taking reviews as, part of the decision-making process and can understand that. but it's like customer satisfaction, but it's ongoing. It's not like it's a once a year activity. You're able to get customer insights in a really fluid, ongoing manner and adjust your business with those insights, or be able to react to negative insights, because it's not sort of a moment in time. It's fluid. It's going on and on.
Yeah, I think the best businesses are the ones that are regularly, you can think of it as like surveying your customers, like asking for that feedback, all the interactions and touch points along the journey. When you place the order, how was that? Or like when you actually get it, did everything arrive okay? Like those kind of things. And then asking for that feedback to help continually improve all your systems and processes can be sometimes really insightful. Customers have, some great ideas.
Totally agree. So, talking about, this move towards a digital first landscape, I don't know if that everybody would understand what that exactly means. So I'd hope that you could maybe understand, explain it, and then tell us about how it's impacting your company, how your approach to sales and marketing.
Yeah. So our business, obviously being a review company, we try to make sure that our customers share our story as well. So we're constantly asking our customers for that feedback and doing it. But, as we think digital first, I think that's just like the natural evolution of where the marketplace is going. We've seen it during COVID, like, Shopify and Amazon are basically saying every day is, Cyber Monday in terms of traffic.
Right.
And, people are going online to make purchases and choices. And I think it's an expectation of like brands nowadays to like be at the forefront of that. Whether it's active on social and email and have a website with the accurate information. I mean, you opened up today talking about the restaurants, not all of them open in your area. I can't tell you how many restaurants in my area I just call, because like they don't update their Google listing, they don't update their website, they don't have anything posted on social. Like I walked into a restaurant, I called and ordered, and they were like, "Oh, you're like our first customer of the day." It was a breakfast place. It was like 10:30 in the morning, and I'm like, "Oh goodness!" And they're like, "Yeah, this is their first day open," and I was like, "Your Google listing says you're closed. Your website says you're open. Like, there's nothing on social. Like, how would anyone know?" And I just think like there's they're just being in this example a restaurateur. You're like you're good at making awesome food, and 5-10 years ago that was enough. Unfortunately, that's not enough anymore. You need to have this stuff really buttoned up, and I think those are the brands that are going to succeed and grow. And it like breaks my heart, because I hate to say this, but a lot of the big brands are the ones that are succeeding right now because they have that stuff super airtight and they have the system set up, and it eats me up. So I'm trying to support all the small businesses locally in my community as well, but come on guys, we got to do better. So.
Yeah, I think even just you guys did a campaign a few months ago for the restaurant community about, just creating awareness about what a review could mean to a restaurant, especially a small restaurant. So, if you could take 3 restaurants in your community and write a couple of good reviews for them, that would really be, you can always buy like a gift certificate or carry out their food, but also adding a review would be like really a powerful way to help that restaurant as well. So
yeah, that's a great idea.
Was there anything on the sales side that your company's doing different in your approach to sales or marketing? Like what have you used like from an innovation standpoint?
So I'd say our business acted pretty quickly. From within the first 2 weeks of the crisis, we called all 1,000+ customers of ours, picked up the phone. So it wasn't just our CS team, but salespeople, operations, recruiting, etc. So I thought, addressing the crisis right away, how are you doing? Is everybody healthy? That kind of stuff. But as we moved on, we tried different campaigns like, hey, what happens if we extend our trial to give people more of an opportunity to try our product from the standard 14 to 60 day. We got some data on that. We ended up shortening it back. But we are it's slowly starting to increase. At least our buyers, we're seeing them starting to get more engaged because they have free time. They don't necessarily have the budget allocation yet. Some do, but most don't. So right now it's that research phase. And I got to imagine that on the tail end of this, as we like come out and we have more certainty around the economy, I believe more people are going to be making those purchases and speeding up, because they're going to have, in this example, they've already done all the research. They've looked at, if they're comparing against us, they're looking at 4 other companies. Maybe they do demos and trials with a couple of them. They're making the purchase all online, not interacting with us anywhere else. And at the end of this crisis, they're going to go like, this is the one I want to buy. So I think like there's going to be a fair amount of economic activity following this, but it'll be interesting to see. I think different industries will follow at different times. So we'll have to see how that adapts. Like, people in home remodeling seem to be doing really well right now versus like, there's a healthcare system in Chicago that I know that's losing over $1 billion annually right now. So like, it's like, those are the 2 extremes of, what's going on. Just to be fair, I'm pretty sure they made billions, profit years before. So I think they're going to be okay. Like, but we don't know, so.
So is there, we talked a little bit about, the platform, but is there tools that people have or likely are using already that could, greatly improve the customer experience to retaining and attracting new customers? Is there some things that we might already have in our toolbox and we're just not thinking about it correctly?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of these things are super easy, and you don't have to sign up for ReviewTrackers. You don't have to sign up for Red Caffeine, although Kathy might disagree. But simple things like claiming your Google local business listing, making sure, and whatever respective online profiles that you have already that are already created for your brand, claiming them, add it to your email signature. Do you love our product? Leave us a review at this site. Already use an existing survey, you have SurveyMonkey or something, put an email in there. You have social media, share it, saying like, we would love your feedback. And then here's the hard thing for a lot of small businesses, taking and accepting that feedback and making changes. There are some businesses that won't change. Like, I don't know if anybody's had the pleasure of going to the Wiener Circle late night in Chicago. I don't think that business is ever going to change. And they, there's plenty of YouTube videos if you want to explore that one. But some things shouldn't change. But a lot of businesses can improve. A lot of businesses can get better. And, taking that feedback directly from customers who have already said, I've given you my money. I put my faith in you. I like your product. Why not listen to what they have to say? And taking that can be really powerful. Right now, online reviews are trusted. The 88% of people actually trust online reviews as much as a personal recommendation. Share a quick story on this. Like, literally, I was with my mom. We're driving to a restaurant. I've been to the restaurant before. I know it's good. And she goes, can we go somewhere else? I'm like, what are you talking about? And she's like, it's only like a 3.8 online. I'm like, Mom, I've been there. I know it's good. It's gonna be fine. There's gonna be something on the menu, like, but it's only a 3.8. So like, my attitude is when my 65-year-old mother is doing this and checking out the reviews before she goes anywhere, everybody is already doing this at that point. She's the last adopter of anything. So, yeah, at least that's how I think about it.
Well, definitely use my mom as a benchmark as well. And what's the take on responding? So, are you a advocate of responding to reviews, both like Glassdoor employee reviews as well as like customer reviews?
Yeah, so I look at like consumer behavior and how I think they'll adapt over to consumer B2B. But consumers expect a response, so let's start with that. They do. The second thing is when consumers are reading reviews, whether it's negative or positive, I think it's an opportunity for you to engage with your customers and your audience who are reading and trying to learn about your business. So you can say like, it comes off, if you respond to a negative review and go like, screw you, person, versus going like, thanks for the feedback. Sorry you had that experience. We want to make it right. Those kind of talk tracks, like then me as a consumer, I'm going to go like, you know what? They're at least trying. And if something goes wrong, they'll at least help make it right. Versus like, I don't want to give them a chance because like, if something goes off, like, I don't think that's going to be a place that will make me whole and like take care of me as a customer. So I believe in responding to every review. Consumers, people who write reviews expect a response. Our data shows it. And then if, when you respond, I think it's a great opportunity is if you're a marketer to go like, highlight some of the things that you're, about your business and things that are going well and like just showcase it because that goes into the algorithms of Google is like, mentioning new services or products, et cetera. I think that can be really important.
On that line of thinking, there is search engine optimization value in reviews. Can you speak to that? Kind of give us some insight to that.
Yeah. So if you look at Google Maps, it's like that is a driver of like we call it local search. So you're a local based business. Google Maps is heavily influenced by online reviews. The latest data says somewhere in like the 20th percentile. So basically, like if you want to think of this, you do everything else perfect, but you don't manage your listing or your reviews correctly, you take off 20 to 30% off the top of your chance of being ranked. And then if you look at review responses, the listing being accurate, the local website, phone number, there's all sorts of things that influence the rankings so that when someone searches local plumber or machine shop or restaurant, and the best way that, the leading thing that influences that score is online reviews.
Wow.
You can Google it, like there's a bunch of articles on basically independent people all confirming the same data point.
And so just so, we can make this clarification for everyone is that ReviewTrackers really aggregates all this information. So it's just easier to manage. Is that sort of
Yeah. So ReviewTrackers is really designed for like the customers with lots of physical locations or many, many reviews. We really service like the power users, the people with lots of locations, or national footprints, if you will, where they have full-time people just managing reviews. But we do have small businesses as well, because we can help automate asking your customers for reviews so you don't have to think about it. Things like that sometimes people might get value out of as well.
All right, great. Well, I'm going to kind of switch gears here and talk a little bit more about you as a leader, as a CEO of ReviewTrackers. So, we've all been through quite a turbulent few months and it's been just really a time of crisis that I don't think, even though I'm maybe 1 or 2 years older than you, I don't think I've ever faced this much change and expectation on leaders. And you wrote a really compelling quote about people will remember about how you led them in a turbulent time. Be thoughtful in your actions. That legacy will stay with you long past the crisis. Can you just expound on, why you think this way and a little bit more behind the scenes around that quote?
Yeah. So I wrote that. I was inspired by a request by someone on my marketing team to say like, hey, put a couple thoughts, and they really helped me organize it. But the intention behind the quote was to realize that like, it's easy to be a leader during what some people refer to as peacetime versus wartime. That's not exactly like the right way to describe it, but the reality is like, you got to think of it as like a wartime situation and how you react, address, and respond. To work through what is now like compounding crises. They layer on top the health, economic, and racial that we're seeing in this country. And we're going through a political election year, so I don't think it's over. But the intention behind it was to help remind us as leaders to go, how we act, what we say, what we do is being watched by our team. How we act and respond is being remembered. And reputation, just like online reviews, carries with you a long time. And I just try to be like really thoughtful about how I communicate with our team, and because I want them to know, and like as much as I can, give them that certainty. Like with everything, maybe at some points feeling like things of the world is coming around them. If I can give that level of security and certainty that, hey, we're going to get through this as a business, I think that speaks volumes to, in this case, our team, my team, that we're going to get through this together. And even if that gives them a little bit of security, a little bit of comfort to help them be able to be more focused and productive in not just work, but like life, I think that's my job as a leader.
Well said, well stated. So I'm going to push on this topic to talk a little bit about something that's uncomfortable, especially as both of us are white leaders, and what's going on around brand and racism. I'm seeing a lot of communications from these larger brands about their stance. And, you know, like even I was driving back from Chicago to the suburbs and saw a billboard where there was an African-American woman with reflective glasses with a rainbow in the reflection. And I, you know, was taken aback a bit about, you know, are they just checking a box of, you know, being part of something and not really living those at the core. I've also, you know, recently listened to a podcast where Dana White, a Black female CEO, said that, you know, as a business owner, we have customers, we have a team that are looking at us, and it's okay that we don't know what to do. If it's okay to say that we're figuring it out, but it is our responsibility as a leader to say something, and it's tough. So I'm just want you to kind of give your reflection on what we're seeing, you know, big brands do. Where does that fit in for a larger, for smaller organizations, and how you're thinking about it at ReviewTrackers?
So lots of thoughts.
Long question.
Yeah, lots of thoughts. So I'll start with, there's a lot of hate in the world right now, and we need more love. And I think that's like at the foundation of a lot of the issues and problems that we face in this country. There's a lot of prejudice, whether it be known, some of it's from not being educated, some people are still educated and they choose to make, you know, those choices. But obviously, like, I think things need to change, things can be better. You know, I spent a lot of time listening to my team as of late. You know, I realize there's a lot of privilege associated as a white male. And, you know, you think about the perspective, at least I think of my childhood and the challenges that I faced, because all of us have had changes. But, you know, as a kid, my mom didn't have to talk to me about like how you interact with police. There's just so many stereotypes and issues that you have to overcome that just shouldn't be there. And I think it's wrong. And I think we should be figuring out how to be better as a country, be fair to everyone, because we're all Americans. And I just hope that through this process, we create lasting change. You know, as I read history, I think of a lot of what's happening now is just a lot of it's been repeated before. I'll just say it that way. And I think a lot of that, again, goes to there's too much hate, need more love. And I hope that through this process, we can peacefully create the right amount of change that needs to happen.
Yeah. Well, I mean, from a brand standpoint, I found myself, I'm a big believer in being authentic as a brand. And I found myself kind of judging brands for just jumping on the bandwagon and, you know, checking boxes. But when I hear the perspective from, you know, a Black leader talking about that saying something is better than saying nothing, I had to kind of check my own bias and say that, you know, it is, when I'm seeing these things, at least I'm constantly being reminded that we've got to do better. And so I think that there's just a lot of viewpoints, and it's going to be an ongoing conversation, I think, that we're going to have as business leaders, and what we can do to impact change. So thank you. I appreciate you sharing your thinking on such a tough and a bit controversial and uncomfortable topic.
But you're right, but it shouldn't be controversial. This should just be how it is, like we should, but the fact is there's a lot of inherent biases, whether it be implicit, known, maybe it's from lack of education. There's a lot of things that we can do better in this country, and I hope we fix some of those systemic issues. We do better with education and training and just removing that hate. So.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. So I'm gonna, again, switch gears a little bit and talk a little bit about your culture. I know you are like a very passionate employer. You moved into a beautiful, big new office in December of 2019. And now you're working remotely. So just want to try and think about or hear about what has, what's happened with the culture since this sort of shift from this incredibly cool and exciting new office space, and now all of a sudden, a couple months later, you're completely remote.
Well, it felt like we made it for like at least 3 months, so that felt good. Yeah, it was a beautiful office. It's interesting to just see how quickly we're evolving as a company to go like, go remote. We're figuring it out. I think at first it was a little rough, but I think our team's done a fantastic job where they're exceptionally resilient and have figured out how to adapt. And as a result, while we haven't figured out everything, there's quite a lot to still do and document, et cetera. I think we're like in a really good spot to continue to innovate on our culture and hopefully continue that inclusiveness and togetherness, and what was special in the office, hopefully we continue that online as well, because at least for our team, we're planning to stay out of the office for the foreseeable future. So.
Wow. Yeah, we're hearing things run the gamut, but it's definitely, I've just missed people. I've missed some of the interactions you just can't get on a Zoom or virtual meeting. So it's definitely a question mark for all businesses, especially if you don't have to physically be in the office to do your work. Is there anything that you guys have done since you've gone remote that has been like super effective and you'll continue on with, kind of following whether or not you return to the office?
No, I think the biggest thing is just we're going to continue working remote. So we made it so our team can stay remote full time if they want, forever. And I know it's like that you saw a bunch of tech companies announce that. We kind of announced it around a similar time. So yeah, there's an oven being delivered in my kitchen right now. So if you hear some background noise, so.
No problem. And then there's also usually a dog barking on our webinar. So we're used to, working from home is the new normal. So we definitely just, work around it. One last question about you, and then I want to turn it over. I see some questions coming through. I want to be able to make sure you have time to answer these. What have you learned about yourself during this time? Is there anything that comes to mind that?
I've been reminded how resilient our team and company are. That's been really incredible. And then in terms of myself, I've learned that I really enjoy going on long walks every day. So that's been my form of exercise. I got a Peloton yesterday, but so that'll fully replace it. But I've really enjoyed the walks, and I miss seeing people in person, but I have found new ways to build those connections, whether it be phone or et cetera.
Yes, well, we've had a few walking meetings together, and I've really enjoyed that as well. So, Lisa, I'm going to let you start it looks like a lot of questions are coming in. I want to make sure we have a chance to get to some of that.
Sounds perfect. So Chris, to start off with, and I have a few questions. I actually had one that was submitted ahead of time, so I'll ask that one as well. But wanting to kick off, what is your favorite B2B success story? You had some great B2C ones with the automotive, some of the restaurants, but what's a really neat B2B one for those that might be in more, manufacturing or other service-based businesses?
I'm trying to think of a good one. I'm trying to think of one off the top of my head that I'm like, I love. I don't know. I don't have like one that I'm like, God, this is like a killer one. But I have seen so many, what I'll define as like, what I think are like odd businesses just crush it in online reviews. So think of like, there was a industrial vibrating plate manufacturer that was like an adapter for construction equipment. And they had their customers do like online video testimonials that I thought was kind of cool. And like, oh, it actually does smash the thing or whatever. I think it's just the making the brand real and humanizing it, I think is like the biggest thing that you can to be successful. And I think the brands that, whether it's B2B or the industrial vibrator, I think it's just asking customers for the reviews. Yeah, I think that's what I've seen.
Okay.
Yeah,
that may actually.
I've seen brands like Caterpillar, both from the customer standpoint as well as like the employee standpoint, really leverage those personal stories and reviews. Like, like kids playing with a Caterpillar truck, as an endorsement, and it's global. It's not something that is, and they're a very industrial brand. So I think, obviously they're a big brand, but I think taking that thinking is, it really does sort of help showcase how, like, reviews aren't just like, I had a great taco. I mean, they're like, my kid loves this, like, we love Caterpillar so much, our kids play with these as their toys, so.
Yeah. There's a lot of brands that are using reviews as to acquire the customers and then using that as a feedback channel to keep the customers. And there's dozens, and I know there's lots of success stories on our blog at reviewtrackers.com as well, if people are curious to dive in more.
All right, so my next part is, I'm going to go two parts because I have a feeling that the answer might be similar. So one being, and this is the question I had from ahead of today's webinar, is let's say you're newer, you don't have a ton of reviews, and you get a slew of negative ones. People just you had a bad night, you could have been first couple weeks of business, staffing changes, and all of a sudden you're getting people right and left just not happy. Any strategies that you would recommend people trying to combat that with?
So that's why I talk with a lot of the strategies and start with try to generate reviews, because at some point, not everybody's perfect. At some point, something will go off and that could happen. We've had it happen to us as well. But I think it's about how you respond and going like, hey, really sorry, try to address that immediately, fix the problem, and then asking the happy customers that return to say like, hey, can you update your review? Or like even just asking for reviews to showcase online essentially that your business has changed and evolved. So that's what I think is probably the most effective strategy if you don't have any of that base layer, so to speak.
Okay, and that it actually perfectly rolls into the next question. What are the first three things that companies should do to get started as far as incorporating this? If you're not doing any review work today, what are like the three main things you should be taking away and like, yes, we got to start doing this?
Really simple, and don't need to buy anything, and you can have it done before 1 o'clock. have your profile claimed on one of the respective review sites, figure out how to ask your customers. So drop into an existing newsletter, put a link on your website, put a flyer into the to-go order, put in your email signature, wherever it's appropriate, and just say, share your feedback. We want it. And then as reviews start coming in, then you figure out how to respond and address and all that kind of stuff. But
Okay.
try to ask 5 customers, before the end of the day. See what happens.
And Chris, there's a way to there's a way to pull in customer data right into your website as well, right? I know there's like some WordPress widgets, but I mean, I know we've pulled in like social media comments. We should be able to pull in reviews as well.
Yeah. Again, super easy. Like if every business, depends where you are, but like I said, if there's nothing posted online yet, create that first profile and claim it. And then if you already have reviews online, maybe, do a Google search, your business name, reviews, see what you find. Start claiming and responding. That might be maybe the third step in the journey. I don't know, does that answer your question, Kathy?
Yeah.
No, perfect. And then final question today is kind of switching gears a little bit from more of brand of somebody being a purchaser. If you've got for your employees, this always seems to be the tricky part of, you want your employees to review your business or leave a great review on Glassdoor, for instance, but it can be a little awkward to ask that question. Any ideas to how to encourage your employees to write reviews without making it seem like everyone must leave 5 stars or else?
Yeah, I mean, I think the easiest thing is like, don't go in with the expectation that everybody's going to give you 5 out of 5. So I'd start there, and just know that like, hopefully you get some constructive feedback that you can improve. Like that's the intention behind some of the reviews or anonymous channels. But for us, we've done it a few times in the past. Sometimes like, managers will ask their teams like, hey, we'd love it if you'd leave a review. Maybe it's like Glassdoor or Indeed or comparably the top 3 review sites for that space. They all have tools to help you generate reviews as well. So that's another mechanism that you can use. So just another tool at your disposal, so to speak. And then they mass blast it. They send the automated emails. And then just as a friendly reminder, do not ask your staff to only leave 5 stars. Do not say, I'll give you a gift card. Do not do any like weird stuff. Like you got to be on the up and up. Because if it's inauthentic, people will read through that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's similar to customers. You've got to kind of bake it into your processes. So if a new employee's on 90 days, have them rate the onboarding experience or the interview experience. So, trying to capture different segments of your organization but it's just, the same with customers. People tend to want to give you feedback when you've done something wrong, and they don't always think to give you feedback when you've done something really great. But if you do get that little bit of that email, like, we're so happy with what you guys did for this project, that's the time to say, hey, would you mind reviewing us? And make it easy, like send them right to the link and tell them where you want to be reviewed, so you can start to be more proactive about that kind of feedback.
And then the other thing that I'd recommend too, if people are a little nervous about maybe reviews with employees, they go like, maybe there's a few things internally we need to fix first. To Kathy's point, we use a survey called Culture Amp, which does it, I think twice a year for our team, but like for new hires, there's some sort of cadence when they start as well. So like after 60 days, for example, they get a survey. It goes like, how to go, what can we do better, etc. We also have weaved that into our entire interview process. So like whether we hire them or not, they get a survey from us. And then, so that's like one mechanism. So like we look at like the overall, that's like a little bit more in depth, where it's like the life cycle of interviewing, onboarding, and the life of the employee. And then we also do 15-5, which is kind of like a one or two question pulse survey, like every 2 weeks. Some people it's every week, but most people it's about every 2 weeks, to see like what's going on, what are you happy about, is your is your manager giving you enough feedback, like that kind of stuff. And then like it just gets shared with the manager to go like, oh, they want more feedback. So things like that, like hopefully address more in real time versus, you know, that one time a year you send that survey.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's so many different ways. I mean, we've got, one that came to mind just as we were talking about customer satisfaction is, every time an order's gone out, that we have one of our clients that generates, you know, a automated ask about how they did on that order, and it's been incredible. I mean, it's given them so much insight into customer satisfaction, and it's in real time. It's you know, it's instantaneous. It's not that once a year ask, because typically you're getting like, was that last week good, or was you know, they're not recalling the what's gone on over time. So and then how can you take that data and get it more publicly noted, I think would be a great next step.
Great.
Perfect. Well, Chris, thank you so much for participating today. It was great getting to hear more about how we can do reviews. And easily, you know, I love that by 1 o'clock. So part of me is like, yeah, I could completely do this in 15 minutes, make sure my domains are claimed, get 5 people I want to talk to and ask for a review, and then work with the team to get them inserted into a newsletter or something. So great practical advice. For those of you who attended live or might be watching this later, if you do have any questions for Chris, feel free to reach out to him at chris@reviewtrackers.com. Just put in unusual in the subject line so he knows that you're coming from the webinar, or you can also connect with him on LinkedIn as well. So Chris, thank you again.
Thanks for hosting me.
Yeah, and good luck with the new stove in the kitchen. That sounds kind of fun. Well, as we look to our next webinar, we're going to take a slight break off from our 2-week cadence and actually have a 1-2 punch on July 8th. We'll be featuring Janet Vian, who's the Chief Strategy Officer at Red Caffeine, who has 30+ years of merger and acquisition work, as well as reboot strategy for companies such as R.R. Donnelley, Sears Holding, and Cimbria, as well as Dean DeBias, who is the chairman of 2 different companies, 3DP and PBC Linear, and also a faculty member at Northwestern University, the Kellogg School of Management. This is a must-attend event. We are going to be talking about the second half of the year and your most important business asset, which is your strategic plan. So both Janet and Dean are going to offer advice, practical tips that you can do to instantly revamp, reboot, and revise both your people, your passion, as well as your plan to get ready for the second half of this year. Registration will be available starting today on our website at redcaffeine.com. You can also go to our webpage there. So again, visit redcaffeine.com, go to the Business as Unusual section where you'll find Chris's webinar, as well as our other past webinars that you can listen to and tune in. This was your first time attending Business as Unusual. Thanks so much for joining us. We hope you are leaving today with some great ideas, as well as that inspiration and innovation that we were hoping for. If you'd like to learn more about Red Caffeine, feel free to connect with us at connect@redcaffeine.com, and we look forward to hearing from you. So again, thank you, Kathy and Chris, for your time today, and hope everyone enjoys the rest of their day. Thanks so much.